Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 21 of the Memorial Memo, KSR's Kentucky Women's Basketball Podcast, brought to you by our friends over at Friends of Cole. I'm joined by Katie Hutchison, who is somewhere out, by the beach side looking at the sunset. I mean, look at that view. That is a tremendous view for a podcast. Katie, I imagine you are doing great, but go ahead, tell me how you're doing before we dive into, the tournament and all that.
Funnily enough, we actually got here Friday night, which is when all of that crazy, crazy weather was happening. So I definitely was scared for my life for the first night, but it's been beautiful for these past couple of days. So no complaints here.
That's good. If you all, whether you're listening on like Spotify or Apple or wherever, or if you're watching, you can probably tell I sound a little different. It's because I have a mic and a headset now. Made a little bit of an investment there. Way too excited about that. I had to do some work to get it connected, but definitely ready to roll here today. Katie, I'm really looking forward to today's episode because, unlike every other episode we've done, there's one topic. There's one kind of big thing we're here to talk about, and that's the NCAA tournament. Of course, yesterday, Selection Sunday, Kentucky came in as a 4 seed in Spokane. Now, Katie, I think obviously we would have preferred Birmingham, because that's a drivable distance for not only us but BBN. But Katie, what are your kind of overall thoughts, on Kentucky's draw?
Yeah, I'm not necessarily surprised that Kentucky is a 4 seed. They were projected 3 seed for a few weeks in a row, then lost to Oklahoma in the SEC tournament. So Kentucky being a 4 seed did not surprise me. I think what surprised me the most was being drawn in the Spokane region. I was just not really expecting that because I feel like typically teams are kind of drawn in regions that are a little bit closer to where they typically play. The draw itself, which we'll get into, I'm sure, but it's definitely tough. I think it's doable, but I think that it's pretty tough. I think it could have been worse, that's for sure. But I'm okay with it. I think I'm okay with it.
I also thought Kentucky would end up in Birmingham, just because of the way Charlie Cream had kind of projected it for a while. I thought it was interesting. He nailed the opponent. We are playing Liberty on Friday at noon on ESPN. But as far as the draw itself, I'm kind of looking at obviously again you play Liberty first round, but if you win, you play Kansas State most likely in the second round. Now, when you look at the other 5 seeds, Katie, that was going to happen kind of no matter what, because Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Alabama are the other 5 seeds. And the way the committee does it, they try to prevent those intra-conference matchups for as long as they can. So, a Kansas State was always going to be the 5 with Kentucky being the 4. Of course, it was expected that Kentucky is going to be a 3 for the longest time, Katie, but Oklahoma and North Carolina are both 3s. Katie, I think, now you did beat Oklahoma on the road, and that's a bit different, but obviously most recently you lost to them. But I guess the argument there, Katie's like, if you wanted to be a 3, maybe beat those teams so you could be a 3.
Yeah, I definitely think that is the main culprit of dropping to a 4, especially because Oklahoma and Kentucky have kind of been neck and neck in the AP poll and the net rankings for so long now. It's really not surprising when one of the teams beats the other one's probably better, just according to the committee. I think that Oklahoma being a 3 is well deserved because they're very good. I wish that there was room for Kentucky in there, but of course, if you can't pull it out during the SEC tournament, then what makes the committee think that you can pull it out during the NCAA tournament?
I think it's definitely fair, but Katie, what surprised me because obviously you want the 3 seed because ideally in the Sweet 16 you play the 2 seed. And I would say 99% of the time, and of course, theoretically 100% of the time, the 2 seed isn't going to be as good as the 1 seed, obviously. But Kentucky is in the unique region where the UConn dilemma happens, where, UConn is obviously one of the top 5 teams in the country, but they're on the 2 seed line.
Mm-hmm.
With USC as the 1 seed in our region, Katie, I almost, because now if Kentucky makes the Sweet 16, they're probably going to play USC. Now, what sucks about that with going out to Spokane is that might even be a home game for USC. But just as far as X's and O's and matchups go, Katie, I think I'd almost rather play USC than UConn. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of pick your poison there. But actually, being a 4 seed, I'm not too upset with it, other than having to play a really, really good Kansas State team in the second round.
Okay, first, before I say anything about that, the AC just turned on behind me. So if you can hear that, I'm really sorry. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I do think that UConn is a pretty decent matchup. I would say I don't think that UConn is unbeatable. USC is definitely a very good team. So I do think that it is kind of the luck of the draw, I guess, that Kentucky would get to play USC, because I do think that UConn is technically better than USC. I just think that UConn is a better matchup for Kentucky.
I guess that's fair. Yeah, I guess that's definitely fair. I mean, again, it's like with those two teams, it's almost like just pick your poison, and we'll see whenever you get there. But overall, I actually really like the draw. Well, I mean, more important than anything, Kentucky gets to host, right? The thing that we've been talking about, all season long. Kentucky's got to fight for a top 4 seed, and they did it. I was at the selection show watch party, and I thought it was great because Georgia Amore said it where she's like, it's really nice to be able to sit and watch the show, and you're in. It's just a matter of where you gonna be. That's really nice because at Katie, it's been since 2022 that we've even talked about Kentucky being in the big dance, and I know it was expected for Kentucky to be a tournament team under Kenny Brooks, even in year one. But Katie, I'm still, overall very excited, very thrilled that the season still lives on, that it didn't end in Greenville.
Yeah, I'm very excited, especially because last season we didn't get to experience anything fun like this. It was definitely kind of a letdown at the end of the season. So having the security of knowing that you're going to be in the tournament has got to feel good for the whole team, but it also probably feels good for us, and it feels good for the fan base too, because we know that there's more basketball coming.
And I will say, what's interesting to me, and we'll talk about Fairfield more in a minute, they're coached by Carly Tabalt-Dudanis, who, if they were to beat Kansas State and Kentucky were to win, obviously that would be the second round game. Katie, think it's pretty fair to say, obviously Kenny Brooks was hired at Kentucky. Carly Tabalt was the next person in line. She, from what I've been told, I think it's been so long now, I think it's fair to say, from what I've been told, and I put this stuff out at the time too, but she expressed interest in the job. I think she even came to Lexington with her family and looked around, toured and kind of did the thing that I don't know why this is what I thought of, but the thing that Scott Drew's wife did, and they ultimately turned it down too. But I think I think she realized she was happy at Fairfield, turned down the opportunity. But yeah, if I think she was the coach in line for 1 or 2 days before she eventually declined the offer to come. But Katie, I think it'd be really interesting. I don't know, to get the almost was, and the what it is. I think that'd be interesting to see in the second round.
Yeah, I mean, that would be interesting for sure. And I think that it would be another great matchup considering Fairfield spent the last 3 weeks of the regular season and in the AP poll. So they are a very good team as well. So I think that it would be interesting to see what Kentucky, like you said, what Kentucky could have been.
Yeah, you think about Fairfield and it's like, Fairfield, who? The Stags. What's a stag? But, they, like you said, they were ranked for a while. Fairfield, very good. But first, Katie, we got to talk about Liberty, because that we know Kentucky is going to play Liberty. We can speculate about Kansas State and Fairfield in a minute, but we know Kentucky is going to play Liberty. The Flames, 26-6 overall. They won the Conference USA tournament. They beat. I'm sorry, I just lost it. Hold on. They Middle Tennessee State, who in last season's NCAA tournament upset Louisville in the first round. Right? Middle Tennessee State's a very good team. Liberty went 16-2 in their conference. I didn't realize this. until last night. Kenny has coached against Liberty a ton, in his days at James Madison, even at Virginia Tech a little bit. But yeah, Liberty, Katie, Kentucky's first round opponent. What do you kind of make of that right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an interesting matchup. I think that Liberty is pretty good because I have to admit, I haven't watched a lot of Liberty, so I'm going to have to watch a lot of them leading up to Friday. But I think that just knowing that they held out against Middle Tennessee and knowing how good Middle Tennessee was this year, it is a little bit concerning. I don't think that there's necessarily anything to be worried about if you're a Kentucky fan. I don't like to say that though, because this is tournament time. So ultimately, people will play differently. Teams will look a lot better than they have been all season. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited for the matchup. I think it'll be fun, especially since Kenny has coached a lot against the team before. It's just going to be an interesting turnout, I think.
I'm looking at their schedule, Katie, and it looks like they played 3 Power 5 opponents over the year. They lost to Duke. Looks like that was a home game for them. I don't know why Liberty would have a home game against Duke, but 83-67. They lost. Now, this kind of worries me a little bit. They scored 93 points on Tennessee. Now, they gave up 109 and lost, but 93 points on Tennessee, okay. And then they beat Arkansas 75-61, but, as we've said on this podcast, a few times Arkansas is the worst team to ever play basketball. Of course, they won, like I said, Conference USA tournament, got an automatic bid into the big dance. But, Katie, you just look at their team, and you kind of look at, who's Kentucky going to have to worry about. This is going to be, their best player is a post player, center Bella Smuda, 11.8 points per game, 6.7 rebounds per game. She's obviously very good, and she's 6'6", right? Like, she's got that size. But I still feel like Clara Strack, even even with Bella Smuda being as big as she is, I still like the talent disparity there should aid Clara Strack a little bit.
Yeah, and I think Clara Strack getting the experience in the SEC is going to be really helpful here, especially because, I guess you could consider this like an early season non-conference game. Like, this is a team that Kentucky would probably play towards the beginning of the season. If you're looking at it in like a regular season standpoint, I feel like Clara Strack is more physical, and she's definitely gotten more physical as the season has gone on. So yeah, I think that she will have no problem with Bella Smuda.
And then you see some of the other names on our screen, like there's Asia Boone and Avery Mills, both of which shoot lights out from 3, 36.9%, and then 47.1% from Avery Mills. And then Emma Hess, 10 points, 3 rebounds, 2.4 assists per game, kind of doing her thing all around there. But Katie, I feel conflicted to say, as a Kentucky person, I feel conflicted to say I'm not too worried about this first round matchup, because first round matchups in Lexington, or really just, with Kentucky in general, haven't been a given. That's on both sides of the sport. But Katie, I feel pretty good about Liberty. What about you?
I do feel pretty good. I think Avery Mills could be a problem, but I do think that Kenny, obviously he knows how to coach against this team. So Kentucky's going to come out. They're going to play walk-on defense. I feel like there should not be an issue. Again, I don't want to be too comfortable here, but I feel pretty good.
I could definitely see this being like Purdue, Fort Wayne, or Belmont, where it's a little too close for comfort. With 5 minutes to go, maybe it's a 10-point ball game, and you're like, okay, this isn't over. What's going on here? But I do think Kentucky is going to win. I just don't see Kentucky losing in the first round. I hope to God that does not come across as like one of the worst cold takes ever come next week. But Katie, before we move on to the potential second round matchups, I want to give a quick shout to our friends at Friends of Coal for sponsoring us all season long, including today. Friends of Coal is dedicated to informing and educating Kentucky citizens about the coal industry and its vital role in the state's future. We provide a united voice for an industry that has been and remains a critical economic contributor to Kentucky. By working together, we can provide good jobs and benefits for future generations. Coal is resilient, reliable, and affordable. Friends of Coal is a volunteer organization. All are invited to be a part of our organization, which consists of proud Kentuckians as well as residents from beyond our borders. Head to friendsofcoalkentucky.org to learn more. But Katie, getting into the potential second round matchups, right? Obviously, I actually think, with Kentucky's gaming at noon, I almost want to say like Fairfield and Kansas State may even tip off a little bit before. I'll have to look. Okay, no, they're at 1:30. Scratch that. They're the game right after Kentucky. But I'm interested to see who wins that game. And we're going to go ahead and start with Fairfield, right? Now, Fairfield, we've already talked about Carly Tabalt and, the connection to Kentucky there. 12 seed, the Stags finished 28-4 in the regular season. They won the MAAC. I would say MAC, but that's not the MAC because the MAC is its own thing. But we'll just say MAAC. I know it's the Mid-American Athletic Conference is what that is.
Metro America or something. Metro America, I think. I'm not 100%.
Either way, MAAC, not the MAC. But yeah, Fairfield 28-4. Like you said, they were ranked for a lot of the season. Finished 19-1 in the conference. Had to beat a really good Quinnipiac team in the conference title game in order to win their conference. Now, Katie, just to get an idea of how good Fairfield is, they have only lost one game since December 21st, since the turn of the calendar year, too. And that was to Quinnipiac on March 8th. That was their last regular season game, but they ended up beating them in the tournament championship. Now, when you hear that, you think that's just a horribly weak conference, blah, blah, blah. And sure, the MMAC, probably not the strongest conference. Well, how about this, Katie? They beat Arkansas on the road. Now, again, I know Arkansas is not that great. But they also beat Wake Forest on the road, 72-65. I don't think this Fairfield team is as good as the team they had last year. They were really, really good last year. But Katie, they still have a tremendous team over there for sure.
Yeah, and I think that Kansas State has their work cut out for them, and I think that 5-12 upsets are more common than a 4-13 upset, and I feel like that's kind of one of those that you see and you're filling out your bracket and you're like, okay, well, let me just put in a 5-12 upset because it's probably going to happen at some point. I feel like this game could be it because I think that this Fairfield team is pretty good. Looking at their schedule, like you said, they only have one loss since December 21st, which is absolutely crazy. But I think something to kind of point out is they're also holding their opponents to 50 points a game. They've held Marist to 31 points. They held Iona to 50. They held Merrimack to 48. And it just goes on and on and on and on. They are a very good defensive team. I don't know if that's also to say that the rest of the teams in the conference are not good offensively. But, to me, it is just clear proof that they're good defensively. I feel like that could be an issue if Kentucky were to have to play them.
That's 31 points, Marist. Man, that is now obviously Kentucky will score more than 31, but if Kentucky and Fairfield were to meet, I wouldn't be surprised, Katie, if that's like a 50-55 kind of ball game. Let me tell you, Fairfield led by, a decent cast of players, namely Megan Anderson, who averaging 15.1 points, 4.2 rebounds. But Katie, shooting 37.8% from deep. Don't sleep on her. And then there's Katie. Hey, here you go. How about Katie? Katie, and again, not great with names, admittedly. I know you see it on the screen. We are going to do our best here. Let's see. La Amore?
I think it's Lamoro.
Lamoro, it is O because LSU does that with the thing. 12.5 points per game, 4.7 rebounds per game, 4.3 assists per game. I I hope she is not as hard to contain, Katie, as her last name is for me to pronounce, even though it's probably not even that hard of a last name to pronounce.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think it's Lamoro. I have no idea, but I guess we'll find out.
That is an interesting combination of letters to make a last name. And I'm very apologetic for the fact I butchered it. Uh, and then there's Amina Selimovic, who 9.8 points, 4.3 rebounds, shoots 50% from the field. And Rayana Brown, 8 points, 3.8 rebounds, and shoots 57% from the field. Now, Katie, I actually, you talked about that, the 5-12 upset potential. If Fairfield were to beat Kansas State in the first round, I don't know if I would feel better about beating Fairfield than I would feel about beating Liberty, but I mean, that's still a double-digit seed. I would still feel pretty good about that, but Fairfield, could they make a run in this tournament and be kind of a Cinderella? Sure. But in any case, and hopefully they'd have to go through Kentucky in order for that to happen. And I would just feel pretty good about Kentucky beating Fairfield if that matchup were to happen.
Yeah, I think that something that I always think of, which y'all are gonna hate me when I say this, but when you talk about double-digit upsets, is the St. Peter's year, because I believe they were 15 seed, I think, and they went on a pretty nice run. I feel like Fairfield could probably do the same. Like you said, I'm not sure that I would feel better about beating Fairfield because they're very good, but I think that, yeah, I mean, they are a double-digit seed. I don't feel like you typically see double-digit seeds go on runs like that. It's very rare, but it definitely could happen with this team. I don't know how I feel about it yet, but I think if they beat Kansas State, I would be concerned about beating Fairfield.
I guess that's fair because at that point they'd be really hot, and they could beat a team like Kansas State, like Kentucky, and it would definitely be a dangerous opponent for sure. But Katie, then there's the most likely outcome, the one we'll kind of pour some more time into, Kentucky and Kansas State. Now, Kansas State 26-7 on the year. They have kind of had a rough go out of it to end their season. They lost in the Big 12 tournament quarterfinals to West Virginia. They went 4-5 in their last 9 games to end their season. Now what's interesting about Kansas State, Katie, they have one of the best players, well, actually 2 of the best players in the country on their team. Serena Sundell, who is their point guard, she's been healthy all year. But Katie, then there's Aoka Lee, who in January fractured her foot, and she had to miss about a month of game time, but then returned to action February 22nd against Kansas and immediately hurt her foot again. Now, I did some digging before we got on the podcast, did a little bit of show prep. Nobody. I saw the comment about how Katie does show prep. What's that supposed to mean? You're saying I don't? But regardless, Aoka Lee looks like she's going to come back for the NCAA tournament. I think that's, makes sense, right? Because you want to have her back. Might as well, give it what you got, even if you're on one foot. But she's Kansas State's all-time leading scorer. Like, she's probably the best player they've ever had. I don't know Kansas State basketball history that well, but Katie looks like she'll be back. Okay, Katie can pronounce names. I'll give her that. I'm not great with pronouncing names. I see the comment there. Admittedly, I've never been good with names. I'm just not great when it comes to making my tongue work in ways it should. But Katie, Kansas State potentially in the second round, probably the most likely matchup. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I think that Kansas State is pretty good. Like you said, they've kind of been down on their luck for the past couple of weeks. I'm sorry about the AC again. It just turned on. I don't really have anywhere else that I can go right now. But yeah, I mean, I think that Kansas State is pretty good. I would say I don't feel really good about Kentucky beating Kansas State. It's definitely going to be a tough one. But I think the difference would be Kentucky playing in Lexington rather than in Wichita or wherever Kansas State is. I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, I think that Kansas State is pretty good. Also, Phoenix does probably more show prep than I do. And yes,
Oh,
I am having fun. I'm at the beach. I'm not at the pool. I'm at the beach. I just had to answer that.
well, let me say, first of all, the AC is not getting it. I can't hear it. It's probably just something you can hear. I can't hear it on my end. But also, like how nobody said, Phoenix, you'll never get married with that attitude. Listen, all right, someone one day will see the charm. They will see it. Today's not that day. And then Tyler Blackburn says, I'm so happy y'all are doing this. The women deserve attention just like the men. We agree. We're glad to be doing this. Can't wait to see what both teams do in March for sure. But Katie, Kansas State, man, I think this is again with the other three teams being in the SEC, the 5 seeds being in the SEC, it was always Kansas State you're going to be matched up with because the way the committee does it. But it's just, man, like Kansas State, really? Like that's the team? Like if they were healthy all year long, Katie, they might be like a 3 seed, like in that North Carolina, Oklahoma, TCU. Well, actually, TCU's a 2 seed, but in that kind of territory amongst like top 15, 10 teams in the country. It's just that they haven't been healthy all year, missing their best player for crying out loud.
Yeah, sorry, my Wi-Fi is not very good either, so I'm kind of coming in and out. But yeah, I mean, I think it is definitely tough to kind of think about how this game could turn out because they've had so many injuries towards the end of the season. But I still think that they're very good. I think that I've said this all season long. Anything can happen when it comes to the tournament time. So I feel like Kentucky would have to come out so hot in order to beat this team, especially because they have some really great shooters. And I feel like that would be Kentucky's kryptonite.
Like how George Liquor says, I think the ladies will be surprised by the turnout for their games. I hope that's a good surprise because I expect the turnout to be really, really good. I don't know what George expects, and I don't know what he thinks the team expects, but I hope he means in a good way. I hope he means that in a positive way. But Aoka Lee, Katie, 6'6", she could be a matchup nightmare for Claire Strack. And I get it because I was just talking about the girl from Liberty, how, Claire Strack's got it, but she's also 6'6". Like, what's the difference? Well, I think Aoka Lee, you know, if healthy, maybe the best center in America, maybe second. Lauren Betts is obviously very good too, but that's gonna be a matchup, Katie. You want to talk about, if she's playing, if she's healthy, you know, Clara Strack, Aoka Lee down low. That'll be an interesting one in the paint.
The one good thing about Aoka Lee is that she cannot shoot from the 3-point line. She has actually not attempted a shot from the 3-point line all season. So it's definitely interesting to see that because I feel like now you're seeing a lot of centers who are able to shoot from the perimeter. I think that's really good for Clara because I feel like she's not necessarily good at flexing from like paint to perimeter, if that makes sense, like on defense. I feel like just having to handle her in the paint is the most ideal situation rather than having to like follow her out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. And for me, I actually think offensively, Clara Strack may have a bit of an upper hand because kind of like the same way you talk about Clara having to go from inside it out defensively, I don't know if Aoka can do that. Now, obviously, she can do it to a degree, but Clara Strack's also more athletic, more, a better, I would say a better big than what Aoka faced in the Big 12 a lot this season and, kind of really throughout her whole career. Like, I think Clara Strack could give her some trouble on the offensive end, but, eh, you know, maybe Claire Strack puts up 25, Aoka puts up 30. We'll just have to kind of see. Uh, Kansas State, though, very intriguing to me. Serena Sundell is, you know, she averages the most assists per game in the country. Actually, I think she may be second behind Katie Dennebeer at Drake. But, north of 7 assists per game. Like, Serena, the definition of a point guard, for sure. It's going to be interesting to see her and Georgia Amore kind of could be point guard 1, point guard 2 in the country kind of going at it, Katie.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be a really good matchup. I hold on, I'm trying to see how tall she is. I can't exactly remember. I know that there has been a lot of talk, especially towards the end of the regular season, about Georgia being too small for these bigger guards in the SEC, and I just don't necessarily think that that's true because um,
Serena's
okay, her
six foot
height
two,
is
by the
not
way.
on her profile. Okay, so I think at a point it gets to where the height difference is a little bit concerning, but Georgia is so athletic and so quick that I don't think that even Serena being 6 inches taller than her, however much that is, I can't do math. I don't think that that's going to be an issue. I mean, I think Georgia is great at defense. She's an amazing shot creator. And if she can't make a shot for herself, then she's great at finding the open woman. And I feel like there should not be an issue there. I think that Georgia is probably the best person to put up against Serena. And I don't think that she's going to have any issue regardless of the height differential.
As nobody reminds us, the Flossie Aussie is fast. That is true. Uh, it'll be interesting to see how she does against longer guards, but I don't, she's been able to hold her own all season long.
Mhm.
But Katie, this episode's we're gonna cut it a little short because there's only so much to talk about. But I want to end with this comment from Jay the Great because it is exactly the juju that we need, pun intended, maybe, that we need heading into this postseason. He says he's not worried about Kansas State. UK is going to upset Juju and USC and go to the Elite Eight. Amor and Strack are about to go on a legendary run. You know what? I really like that because the Elite Eight is as far as Kentucky's gone. They've been there 4 times. Let's see Kentucky go to a Final Four, Katie, because why not, right? Obviously, if Kentucky is still alive next week, we'll talk about the Sweet 16 and Elite Eight. But let's just see where Kentucky goes. I think that's the greatest part about all of this. Again, we haven't had an NCAA tournament appearance since 2022. To me, Katie, let's just enjoy this ride. I hope to God we get, out of the first round. We should, probably should get out of the second round. But Katie, other than that, man, let's just see where this takes us. We have who knows how many more games with Georgia Amor and Deja Lawrence, right? Let's just see where it goes and enjoy the ride.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Jay the Great. I think that Georgia, being her last year in college, she's due for a tournament run. And I think that this year she could definitely lead Kentucky to a tournament run. And then we've seen Clara Strack be absolutely incredible these past few games, maybe one of the best bigs in the country. I think that she can do big things in this tournament. So I'm really excited to see how this turns out.
All right, Katie. I think we're going to call it there, right? Because, again, these episodes are coming up and going to be a bit shorter. But to me, I like it because we're in the thick of it. We're in the tournament. We're here. Now, before we get out of here, do you have anything to say? Because, we got to predict some basketball games, Katie.
I am very excited. I'm not able to go to the game on Friday because I am obviously not. I'm in Florida. I can't fly home for the game. It's too much. But I'm really excited to watch the game. I'm hoping that Kentucky makes it out of the first round so that I can actually go to one of the tournament games. But I'm feeling really good so far. I think it's going to be.
I want to answer nobody's question real quick. He said, "What's the deal with the 2 girls that got hurt in the preseason? Are they eligible for next year?" Well, first of all, if we had a 6'8" girl on the team, I missed that. But no, Dominika Parova, who is 5'11", and Jordan Obi, who is 6 foot, I think maybe 6'1". They are both eligible for next season as it stands right now. Well, Dom is ruled out for the season. Dom is torn ACL. She's coming back next year. At least, God forbid she transfers. Jordan Obi, she appeared on availability reports for forever. They didn't play her. If she were to play now, her year of eligibility would get burnt up. So they're both going to take regular red shirts. The difference between a medical red shirt and a regular red shirt is that a medical red shirt would apply to someone who got hurt during the season, a la Kurt Kriisa on the men's side, right? He would be a player who would take a medical red shirt, whereas Jordan Obi and Dominika Parova, who got hurt prior to the season in the summer, they would just take regular red shirts. But Katie, I want to. We gotta do some predictions because next time we talk, Kentucky could or could not be playing, right? So give me your first round prediction. Does Kentucky beat Liberty? And then give me a second round matchup and who wins that game too.
I think, yes, Kentucky is going to beat Liberty. I'm going to say 76-62. I think that Kansas State will ultimately pull it out against Fairfield. So second round, I'm going to say optimistic. I think Kentucky can beat Kansas State. I'm going to say it's going to be very close, though, 66-60. Yeah, I'm going to say 66-60. I feel good about that.
And then myself, Katie, I'm going to say Kentucky beats Liberty 81-69. Nice. And then we got Kentucky in the second round playing Kansas State, where Kentucky is going to win 71-68. It's going to be really close, like you said. Kentucky's going to win because Amelia Hassett is going to hit a three from the corner to kind of put the game away. Now, who's your MVP of those two games, Katie?
I'm going to say Friday's game, it's got to be Georgia Amore. I feel like she's going to come out hot. I think against Kansas State, it's going to be Claire Strack because we've got that matchup down low. And yeah, I cannot fly to the game. It cost me $300. I can't do that. But if you want to pay for my plane ticket, be my guest. I'm on vacation. I guess I am kind of slacking in Florida, but I'm excited to get back and watch some basketball.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with taking some time to slack off for sure. I'm Phoenix Stevens alongside Katie Hutchison. Next time we get on this YouTube channel, Kentucky's going to be alive in the Sweet 16 out in Spokane because we're going to manifest and it's going to happen. USC, Juju Watkins, watch out. We're coming for you. This has been the Memorial Memo. We will see you guys next time.